In the middle of a brutal blizzard, a mother dog was chained to a fence, exhausted and shivering in the bitter cold. Her 6 tiny puppies clung to her, screaming in despair. No food, no water, and seemingly no hope. But what happened next? Who found them? And how did a small community turn this mother dog's last days into a miracle? This is more than just a story of survival. It's a testament to how kindness can change the fate of a living being. And when it's over, it might change the way you look at love and sacrifice forever. Before we go any further, let us know in the comments where in the world you're watching this video from. And if you believe in heartwarming stories, don't forget to subscribe now, because tomorrow there's a special story for you. A blizzard descended on Silver Pine, Montana, like a white monster, swallowing everything in its piercing cold. The wind howled, whipping the bare trees, turning the trail leading to the abandoned farm into a vast sea of snow, cold and merciless. There, in nature's fury, a small figure shivered under the thick snow. Luna, a skinny golden retriever, was trying to hold on. Her once golden fur was now matted with cold, her ribs protruding under her skin that was tight with hunger. But the cruelest thing was not the cold. Luna was tied to a rotten wooden fence, the rope tightening around her neck like a death sentence. She could not run, could not seek shelter, could only lie there, waiting for fate to decide. But she was not alone. 6 tiny puppies, poor children who had barely begun to understand what this world was, huddled against their mother. Their stomachs growled, and their weak cries mingled with the howling wind. They tried to find warmth from their mother, but Luna's body was too cold, too exhausted to give them life. How had such a lovely creature come to this? Who had the heart to abandon her and her babies in this deadly storm? Perhaps it didn't matter now. What mattered was that time was running out. In the distance, in the thick snow, an old blue pickup truck turned the winding road. Jack Carter, a 55-year-old former firefighter, had just finished a supply run from town. He had faced fire, death, and dire situations. But perhaps nothing was more terrifying than seeing a tiny creature abandoned in despair. As they crossed the field, a strange feeling made Jack stop the car abruptly. The snowstorm obscured their vision, but something was wrong. A shadowy figure in the white sea. His heart clenched. A dog. No, more than one. Jack hurriedly opened the car door, the cold wind hitting his face like a sharp knife, but he paid no attention. He walked, stepping on the thick snow towards the shadow. And as he got closer, the sight before him stunned him. An exhausted golden retriever. Her breath was faint, as if she was about to stop. 6 puppies huddled beside her, shivering so much they could barely move. The rope around Luna's neck was a cruel scar of human cruelty. Jack's heart ached. He had seen many tragedies in his life, but this image shattered something inside him. Would he make it in time? Could he save them all before it was too late? Without hesitation, Jack knelt, took off his thick coat, and wrapped it around Luna's shivering body. She was so cold that she was almost unresponsive. He quickly pulled out his pocket knife, cutting the cruel rope that bound her to the fence. But the problem did not end there. Luna was too weak to stand. The 6 puppies were too small and too fragile to walk on their own. How could he get them all home safely through this fierce storm? Jack looked up at the dark sky. The wind howled, and the snow fell more heavily. Time was running out. He knew he had only one chance. With the strength of a fireman, Jack picked up his small family and walked quickly through the thick snow, fighting against the winds that seemed to want to knock him down. His steps sank deep into the snow, but he did not stop. The pickup was only a few feet away, but in this storm, it felt like miles. He had to keep going. He couldn't let them die. With a heroic effort, Jack got Luna and the cubs into the back seat of the car. He quickly closed the door and turned on the heater, letting the warmth slowly melt the ice that covered their bodies. He looked into Luna's tired but hopeful eyes through the rearview mirror. She was still alive. But could she make it? Jack didn't know. But he knew he would do everything he could to make sure no one was left behind. He stepped on the gas. The car sped through the snow toward his little house at the end of the road, where, just maybe, a miracle would happen. If you were touched by this story, leave a like to spread compassion to more people. And what happens next to Luna and her brood? Jack's pickup truck sped through the snow, leaving the raging storm behind. The puppies huddled in the back seat, their little eyes glinting in the darkness, terrified but hopeful. Did they sense anything? Did they understand that their lives were about to change forever? Luna, their mother, lay still. Her breathing was ragged, thin as a thread about to snap. Jack glanced in the rearview mirror. He had never seen a living being fight so hard. Exhausted, close to death, Luna had tried to protect her pups to the very end. But how much longer could she hold out? Would he make it? Jack gritted his teeth and stepped hard on the gas. He couldn't let them die. He couldn't. As the door to the small house swung open, a wave of warmth swept through, chasing away the cold outside. Jack's house was not large, not luxurious, but it was warm enough for a small family to find hope. He laid Luna down on the thick rug next to the fireplace, gently wrapping a blanket around her. The puppies, still shivering, began to huddle against their mother, seeking the protection they had almost lost. Jack sat down beside her, his calloused hands gently stroking Luna's sodden fur. "Hang on, little girl. Don't give up." But was he sure she could make it? Was he giving her a chance to live? Or was he just prolonging her suffering? Jack didn't know. But he did know one thing. He wouldn't let her die in the cold, alone and hopeless. He wiped the snow off her ragged fur, checking her wounds. Luna's body was emaciated, the marks of prolonged starvation etched across her skin. How long had she been suffering? A day? A week? Or longer? Suddenly, a small groan rang out. Jack was startled. Luna opened her eyes. They were tired, but deep as the ocean, a glimmer of hope. For the first time since he had found her, Jack believed she could fight. The next morning, Jack took Luna to the veterinary clinic of Dr. Morgan, his old friend and most trusted friend. Dr. Morgan examined Luna in silence, his brow furrowed as the examination light traced every wound on her body. But when he turned back to Jack, his eyes did not carry good news. "Jack, I'm afraid we have a big problem." Jack held his breath. "She's not just exhausted. She has a tumor in her front leg." "What do you mean?" Jack's voice was hoarse. "Osteosarcoma. Terminal." The air in the clinic suddenly became heavy. Jack looked down at Luna. She was lying still, her head resting on her forelegs, her tired eyes still fixed on him. Did she understand what the doctor had just said? Did she know that her days were numbered? "Is there no other way?" Jack asked, his voice filled with hope. Dr. Morgan shook his head. "Jack, if we remove the tumor, she might live a few more months, but I'm not sure she'll be strong enough to recover." A pang of pain shot through Jack's heart. He had saved people from fires before and had pulled lives from the jaws of death. But this time, couldn't he do more? He bent down, placed his hand on Luna's head, and stroked her soft fur. She looked at him as if to say, "Don't be sad. I'm fine." But how could he be fine? Jack left the clinic with Luna in his arms, the puppies twittering behind him. The wind was still cold, but not as fierce as before. On the way home, he looked into Luna's eyes in the rearview mirror, and a thought occurred to him. If he couldn't prolong her life, he would make every day count. He would give her what she had never had: a home, a family, and moments of complete happiness. That evening, Jack lit a fire in the fireplace, preparing Luna's first meal. He didn't care about a scientific diet or complicated nutrition. Today, she deserved a feast, a hot, fragrant piece of grilled chicken. Luna looked up at him, hesitant. She was used to being hungry for so long. "Now, girl, now. You don't have to be afraid." A moment of silence. Then, as if realizing that this was no longer a dream, Luna bent down, gently biting the meat, savoring it bit by bit. And for the first time in so many days of being abandoned, chained tightly in the snowstorm, Luna ate in peace. Jack smiled slightly. This was just the beginning. He couldn't change her fate, but he could make her the happiest dog in her final days. If you believe that every living thing deserves a home, leave a like to spread this story to more people. Continue to follow Luna's journey in the next part, where the entire Silver Pine community joins hands to help her have the best ending. Every living thing deserves a worthy end. But can an abandoned dog, near death, find magic in its final days? That night, as the firelight cast a glow over the old wooden walls, Jack sat down with a cup of hot coffee. Luna was fast asleep, her eyes closed, her face more relaxed than ever. The puppies snuggled against their mother, breathing softly, carefree as if the world had never hurt them. Jack flipped open his phone. He looked down at the photo he had just taken. Luna curled up with her pups, the firelight reflecting off her golden fur, making her look like a tiny ray of light in the darkness. He wasn't the type to post on social media, but something compelled him tonight. A story like this couldn't just happen in silence. He typed each word. "Yesterday, I found a mother dog abandoned in the middle of a snowstorm. She was tied to a fence, unable to escape. Her 6 little puppies were shivering, clinging to her for warmth. But the most heartbreaking thing was, she didn't have much time left. Luna had terminal bone cancer. I couldn't change her fate, but I could give her the last days she deserved. If anyone believes in miracles, I'd like you to help me make Luna's remaining days the happiest." He pressed the publish button. Little did he know, he had just started a miracle. The next morning, Jack woke up to the sound of his phone ringing nonstop. He opened the screen. Hundreds of messages, thousands of shares, tens of thousands of likes. The comments poured in. "This story makes me cry. Please tell me how to help. Luna is a fighter. She deserves a great last day. I lost my dog last year. I want to do my little bit to help her." Jack was stunned. He never thought a story about a dog could touch so many people's hearts. But then he realized that kindness is always there. It just takes someone to light the first spark. Hours later, the Luna Fund was born. Within 24 hours, donations had reached more than $20,000. Within a week, the whole town of Silver Pine knew about Luna. And within a month, the whole country heard about her story. But no one just wanted to donate money. People wanted to do more. Someone wrote in the comments, "Luna has lost so much in her life. Give her a wish list." And so Luna's wish list was born. One last walk in the snow, a BBQ with grilled chicken, a commemorative photo shoot with her children, a sunset trip to Crystal Lake. In just a few days, the Silver Pine community made those dreams come true. That day, Jack opened the door of his house and led Luna outside. She walked slowly, feeling the soft snow under her feet for the first time without fear. She was no longer tied up, no longer alone. The townspeople gathered, carrying warm scarves, smiles, and open arms. A child ran up and placed a small snowflake necklace around Luna's neck. She had been abandoned in the snowstorm, but today she walked through the snow with those who loved her. After that, the whole town held a BBQ. Luna sat next to Jack, breathing in the smell of grilled meat, her eyes shining. When the hot chicken was placed before her, she looked at Jack as if to ask, "Really? Is this for me?" Jack laughed, patting her head. "Enjoy yourself, girl. It's your day." For the first time in a long time, Luna ate with real happiness. She was no longer fighting alone. A local photographer volunteered to capture the best moments of Luna with her puppies. The best photo? One afternoon at sunset, Luna sat on the shore of Crystal Lake, the water reflecting the brilliant sky. The puppies played beside her, and Jack sat beside her, silently watching the moment. In that moment, there was no sickness, no sadness, just peace. Luna didn't have much time left, but she was no longer abandoned. Jack looked into her eyes and knew she understood. She was loved. Those who came across her story online, those who cried for her, those who shared her last days with her in happiness, they changed the fate of a dog. And perhaps she changed them too. If you believe that every living being deserves a home, leave a like to spread this story to more people. Stay tuned for Luna's next chapter, where she will leave an unforgettable legacy. Outside, the snow fell silently, small flakes slowly landing on Jack's wooden roof, covering the old pine trees in a white coat. A gentle wind blew through the streets of Silver Pine, making whispering sounds between the branches, as if nature itself were listening to an unfinished story. Inside the small wooden house, the fire in the fireplace was still burning brightly, but today something was different. Jack sat on the rug beside the fireplace, where, since the first day he found Luna, she had always curled up to find some warmth. But today, Luna was no longer shivering. She lay there, peaceful, breathing as slow as the late autumn wind. Her gentle eyes were half closed, but Jack knew that she was still listening, still feeling the warmth of the fire and the beating of his heart. The puppies clung to their mother, rubbing their small heads against her golden fur. But Luna barely stirred. She had no more strength to respond. Jack gently placed his hand on her head, stroking it as gently as he could. "Little girl, you've fought for too long." Luna let out a soft breath, a long breath, as if she understood what Jack said. "You don't have to try anymore. You've done enough." Jack's heart clenched with pain. He didn't want to lose her, but she had suffered enough. He leaned down, whispering in her ear, "If it's time, then go. I'll always miss you." And as if she'd been waiting for those words, Luna took one last breath, then quietly closed her eyes. No more pain, no more cold, only peace. Jack didn't know how long he sat there. He only knew that the house was too quiet now. The puppies still clung to their mother, not yet understanding that she was gone. One of them let out a soft whimper, as if calling Luna to wake up. Jack was in pain. but he knew he had to do something to honor her life. He stepped outside, his feet sinking into the thick snow. The wind was cold, but today, he no longer felt cold. Under the old pine tree in front of the house, where Luna often sat, watching the snow fall, Jack began digging a small hole. This would be her final resting place. The Silver Pine community heard the news. Within hours, people began to arrive. People who had helped Luna have a happy last day. People who had loved her even through a story online. No one said anything, but they all felt it. Something more sacred than words. Jack put Luna down, his eyes filled with tears, but he did not let them fall. He carved the words into the stone. Luna, a heart of gold, a soul that shines forever. A gentle wind blew, carrying snowflakes that fluttered in the air. And in that moment, Jack felt as if someone was smiling at him. Luna was gone, but her love would never be lost. In the days that followed, Jack cared for the 6 puppies with all the love he could muster. The Silver Pine community decided not to let these children grow up without a home. Each puppy was adopted by a kind family. But when the last puppy, the youngest girl in the litter, was about to be taken away, Jack stopped. She had eyes exactly like her mother's. She looked at Jack, as if asking, "Can I stay?" And so, Jack kept her. He named her Hope. Hope, a symbol of what Luna had left behind. Hope, a piece of Luna that was still with him. What happened to Luna was more than just a personal story. It changed an entire town. An animal rescue group was formed, called Luna's Legacy. They pledged that no dog would ever be abandoned in a blizzard again. How many lives had they saved? No one could count. But each life saved was a piece of Luna that lived on. Jack sat on the porch steps, looking up at the snowy sky. Hope curled up at his feet, sleeping soundly, just as Luna had. He suddenly realized that every life you save, every act of kindness, has the power to change the world. He smiled softly. "You were never alone, Luna. You were always loved." Hope stirred, wagging her little tail. Jack patted her head and said softly, "Come on, little one. We have a new story to write. If this story touches your heart, please leave a like to help more creatures like Luna have a chance to be loved. Before we wrap this up, we want to say a heartfelt thank you to you, the person who took the time to listen, to feel, and to accompany Luna until the very end. You may have cried, you may have smiled, or your heart may have been broken as you watched Luna leave. But most importantly, you were there. You listened to a story about compassion, hope, the power of love, and most of all, the miracles we can create when we open our hearts. It was your presence, your caring, that made this story all the more meaningful. Not everyone has the patience to see a story through to the end, but you stayed. And that proves one thing. You are a warm-hearted person, a believer in goodness, a person who can make a difference in this world. So, thank you. Thank you for not leaving. Thank you for letting this story touch your heart. And thank you for being willing to spread the message of kindness. How many other Lunas are there? Living beings waiting for a miracle, an outstretched hand? How many other Jacks are there? People who can change someone's life with just one small act. Life may be cruel, but love is always the most powerful thing. We can't save everyone, but if everyone helps someone, the world will change. And the question is, will you be a bystander, or will you be the one to make a difference? If this story touches your heart, please like it so it can reach more people. Share this video, because who knows, It might help someone out there find hope in their darkest days. And we want to know what you think. How would you rate this story on a scale of 0 to 10? Leave your number in the comments. But don't just leave a number. Share your feelings. Tell us how this story changed the way you see life. If you thought Luna's story was touching, imagine what's next. We have more great stories. Stories that will make you cry, make you sob, and most of all, inspire you to live a more meaningful life. The story of a dog who refused to give up to find his way home. The story of a cat who completely changed a depressed man's life. Or a story you'll never forget. If you don't want to miss the next stories, hit subscribe now, because miracles are all around us, just waiting for you to open your heart to see them. See you in the next story. And remember, kindness always creates miracles.